The morning sun painted golden streaks across Emily Carter's bedroom walls as she meticulously packed her camera equipment. At 27, she had already made a name for herself as one of Willow Creek's most talented nature photographers, her work gracing the pages of Montana's premier ecological tourism magazine. But today wasn't about work. It was about answering a call she'd felt stirring in her soul for weeks. The small town of Willow Creek, nestled in Montana's vast wilderness, had always been more than just home to Emily. It was her sanctuary, her inspiration, and the canvas upon which she painted her dreams through her camera lens. As she zipped up her lightweight backpack, she couldn't shake the feeling that today would be different from her usual photography expeditions. Just a quick trip, she assured herself, double-checking her supplies. Water bottle, trail mix, protein bars, her beloved Canon camera, and a sturdy tripod. Her cell phone, fully charged, sat in her pocket, a lifeline she rarely needed but always carried. The weather forecast promised perfect conditions, mild temperatures, clear skies, and a gentle breeze that would make the forest canopy dance. Emily's cottage, situated on the outskirts of town, offered a perfect view of the mountains she planned to explore. She had photographed these forests countless times before, but there was one area, a more secluded section of the wilderness, that had been calling to her lately. From her window, she could see the mysterious stretch of forest, its dense foliage promising untold natural wonders. As she stepped onto her porch, the morning air crisp and invigorating, her neighbor Sarah called out from across the fence. "Another adventure, Emily?" The older woman's voice carried a hint of concern. "You know those mountains can be tricky, especially in the less traveled areas." Emily smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry, Sarah. I know these woods like the back of my hand. I'll be back before sunset." She couldn't explain the strange pull she felt toward that particular section of the forest, but she knew she had to answer it. The drive to the trailhead was short, and within minutes, Emily was shouldering her backpack and stepping onto the familiar dirt path. The morning sun filtered through the canopy, creating an ethereal dance of light and shadow on the forest floor. She inhaled deeply, savoring the rich scent of pine and wild herbs that perfumed the air. As she walked, Emily's camera captured the subtle beauty around her. Morning dew glistening on spider webs, a family of deer grazing in a distant clearing, the intricate patterns of bark on ancient trees. But these familiar sights, beautiful as they were, weren't what she was seeking today. Something deeper, more mysterious called her forward. Hours passed as Emily ventured further into the wilderness, leaving the well-worn trails behind. The forest grew denser, the light different, more pristine, untouched. She found herself in places she had never seen before, despite her years of exploring these woods. The vegetation here seemed older, more primordial, and the silence held a different quality, expectant, almost alive. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Emily discovered a hidden clearing that took her breath away. Shafts of sunlight pierced through the canopy, illuminating a small meadow filled with wildflowers she had never seen before. The colors were extraordinary, deep purples, vibrant blues, and delicate whites that seemed to glow from within. Lost in the magic of the moment, Emily set up her tripod and began photographing the scene. Through her viewfinder, she noticed something unusual. The flowers seemed to follow a pattern, creating concentric circles that couldn't be natural. As she adjusted her position to capture this phenomenon, she failed to notice how far she had strayed from any marked path, or how the sun's position had shifted significantly in the sky. The forest around her had changed imperceptibly while she worked, the familiar sounds of birds and small animals gradually fading into an unusual silence. When Emily finally looked up from her camera, the realization hit her. The forest she knew so well had transformed into something altogether different, and she had no idea which direction would lead her back to safety. A cool breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it a message she couldn't quite decipher. The shadows had lengthened, and the golden afternoon light had taken on an ominous quality. Emily checked her phone, only to find the signal bars completely empty. The battery indicator blinked a warning. All those GPS tag photos had drained more power than she'd realized. As the first hints of anxiety began to creep in, Emily heard a sound that made her freeze, a distant howl that echoed through the trees, followed by another, closer one. The forest suddenly seemed to close in around her, and the beautiful clearing that had so enchanted her now felt like a trap. The adventure she had sought was about to become something far more challenging than she had ever imagined. If this story has captured your interest, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. Let's continue. Emily's heart raced as another howl pierced the increasingly dim forest. She had grown up hearing stories about the local wolf packs, but experiencing their presence firsthand was entirely different. The golden afternoon light that had made everything seem magical just hours ago now cast long, threatening shadows across the unfamiliar terrain. Forcing herself to remain calm, Emily mentally retraced her steps. She had followed the sun east while photographing, so logically, she should head west to return. But the dense canopy above now obscured any clear view of the sun's position, and the trees themselves seemed to have closed ranks around her, creating an impenetrable wall of green and shadow. As she contemplated her next move, a strange sensation washed over her, a feeling of being watched. Not by the wolves, whose howls had momentarily ceased, but by something else, something more ancient, more aware. The forest itself seemed to pulse with an energy she had never noticed before, despite her years of wandering these woods. Through her viewfinder, Emily had captured countless images of these mountains, but now she saw details she had somehow missed before. The trees weren't just trees. They were sentinels, their bark etched with patterns that seemed almost like writing. The wildflowers she had photographed earlier now appeared to glow with a faint, phosphorescent light as dusk approached. A rustle in the underbrush made her spin around, camera clutched to her chest like a shield. Instead of the wolf she feared, a magnificent red-tailed hawk emerged, perching on a nearby branch. Its eyes, intelligent and fierce, locked onto hers. For a moment, time seemed to stop as they regarded each other. The hawk tilted its head, as if considering her presence, then spread its wings and took flight, following a path through the trees. Something in Emily's intuition told her to follow. As a photographer, she had learned to trust her instincts when it came to finding the right shot, the perfect moment. Perhaps those same instincts could guide her to safety. She adjusted her backpack and set off in the direction the hawk had taken, her footsteps careful and deliberate on the uneven ground. As she walked, Emily noticed something else unusual about this part of the forest. The vegetation here was different, older, more primordial. Ferns unfurled beneath ancient pines, their fronds creating intricate patterns that seemed to point in specific directions. Moss-covered stones lay in arrangements that appeared too regular to be natural, forming subtle pathways through the undergrowth. The air grew cooler as evening approached, and Emily pulled her light jacket closer around her shoulders. She had never planned to be out this late, and her supplies, a few protein bars and half a bottle of water, wouldn't last long if she couldn't find her way back soon. Her phone, now completely drained, was useless weight in her pocket. The wolf howls returned, closer now, echoing off the mountain slopes in a haunting chorus. Emily quickened her pace, following what she hoped was the hawk's path through the deepening shadows. The trees seemed to whisper around her, their leaves rustling with messages she couldn't quite understand, but somehow felt were important. Suddenly, she emerged into another clearing, this one different from where she had taken her photographs. Ancient stone formations rose from the ground in a rough circle, their surfaces covered in moss and lichen that seemed to glow in the fading light. In the center stood a single stone pillar, its surface marked with what appeared to be primitive carvings. As Emily approached the pillar, drawn by an inexplicable force, the air around her changed. The temperature dropped several degrees, and the whispers of the forest grew louder, more insistent. The carvings on the stone began to take on a different appearance. They weren't just random marks, but images. Horses, running free across ancient grasslands, their forms fluid and powerful. A twig snapped behind her, and Emily whirled around, her heart pounding. The wolves were closer now, their howls transformed into low growls that seemed to come from all directions at once. But before panic could fully take hold, Another sound cut through the gathering darkness, the distinct sound of hoofbeats growing steadily louder. The stone pillar seemed to vibrate with energy as the hoofbeats approached, its carvings appearing to shift and move in the dying light. Emily stood transfixed, caught between fear and wonder, as the forest around her held its breath, waiting for what would happen next. The ancient stones appeared to be awakening, responding to some primal force that she had unknowingly stumbled upon. The hoofbeats grew louder, their rhythm matching Emily's racing heart. Through the gathering dusk, she could make out movement between the trees, powerful, flowing shapes that seemed to emerge from the very shadows themselves. The wolf growls faded into the background as a magnificent sight unfolded before her eyes. A herd of wild horses burst into the clearing, their coats gleaming with an almost ethereal quality in the fading light. At their lead was a majestic mare, her chestnut coat highlighted with streaks of gold, and a distinctive white marking on her forehead that seemed to glow with its own inner light. The mare's eyes, deep and knowing, fixed directly on Emily with an intelligence that transcended normal animal awareness. The ancient stone circle seemed to respond to the horse's presence. The moss covering the rocks pulsed with a subtle luminescence, creating a gentle glow that illuminated the clearing. The carved horses on the central pillar appeared to dance in this strange light, their ancient forms echoing the living creatures before them. The lead mare approached Emily with deliberate steps, her movements graceful and purposeful. Up close, Emily could see patterns in the horse's coat that mimicked the carvings on the stone pillar, swirling designs that seemed impossible in nature. The mare lowered her head, bringing her face level with Emily's, and in that moment, something extraordinary happened. Images flooded Emily's mind. Vast grasslands under ancient skies, herds of wild horses running free across landscapes untouched by human development, and this very forest in different times, younger, older, changing through countless seasons. She saw the stone circle when it was newly built, watched as generations of horses sought shelter here, and understood that she had stumbled upon something far more significant than a simple landmark. The mare stepped closer, turning slightly to present her side to Emily. The invitation was clear, but Emily hesitated. In all her years of photography and nature exploration, she had never experienced anything like this. The mare waited patiently, her eyes conveying a wisdom that seemed to span centuries. Behind them, the wolf howls began again, closer than ever. The rest of the horse herd had formed a protective circle around the clearing, their bodies creating a living barrier against the encroaching predators. The mare nickered softly, urgently, and Emily knew she had to make a choice. Drawing upon courage she didn't know she possessed, Emily carefully approached the mare's side. As she placed her hand on the horse's back, she felt a surge of energy course through her body. The mare's coat was warm beneath her touch, and she could feel the powerful muscles rippling with contained strength. With surprising agility born of desperation and adrenaline, Emily managed to pull herself onto the mare's back. The moment she settled, she felt a connection unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was as if she could sense the mare's thoughts, feel her intentions. The horse's confidence and strength flowed into her, washing away her fear. The rest of the herd moved in closer, their bodies touching, creating a unified presence that radiated protection and purpose. The mare turned to face the stone pillar, and for a brief moment, the carvings blazed with a brilliant light. Emily gasped as she recognized symbols that matched the white marking on the mare's forehead. This wasn't a coincidence, but a connection to something ancient and powerful. As the mare began to move, Emily found herself swaying naturally with the horse's movements, as if she had been riding all her life. The herd moved as one, leaving the stone circle behind. The wolves' howls faded into the distance, deterred by the unified presence of the horses and something more, an ancient power that Emily could feel thrumming through the very air around them. Through the darkening forest, the herd moved with surprising speed and grace. Emily noticed that the mare seemed to be following a path that only she could see, weaving between trees and avoiding obstacles with supernatural awareness. The other horses matched their leader's pace perfectly, maintaining their protective formation as they traveled deeper into the wilderness. Emily realized that her adventure had transformed into something far beyond a simple photography expedition. She was now part of a story that had been unfolding in these mountains for centuries, guided by a creature that seemed to bridge the gap between the natural world and something far more mysterious. As they traveled through the gathering night, Emily couldn't help but feel that she was being led not just to safety, but toward a profound revelation that would change her understanding of the wilderness forever. Stars began to emerge in the darkening sky above the forest canopy as Emily rode through the wilderness on the mysterious mare's back. The rest of the herd moved like shadows around them, their hoofbeats creating a rhythmic symphony that seemed to pulse in harmony with the forest itself. Despite the darkness, the mare navigated the difficult terrain with unwavering confidence, following what appeared to be an ancient trail invisible to human eyes. As they traveled, Emily noticed something extraordinary. Tiny points of bioluminescent light began to appear along their path. Mushrooms glowing with a soft blue radiance, fireflies dancing in synchronized patterns, and strange flowering plants that emitted a gentle phosphorescence. It was as if nature itself was lighting their way through the darkness. The white marking on the mare's forehead seemed to respond to this natural light show, glowing with its own subtle luminescence. Emily found herself entranced by the marking's pattern, which seemed to shift and change as they moved, sometimes resembling the ancient symbol she had seen carved into the stone pillar, other times flowing like living calligraphy. Through their mysterious connection, Emily began to receive more visions. She saw the mare as a foal, learning the secret paths of the forest from her own mother. She witnessed countless seasonal migrations, guided by the stars and the ancient knowledge passed down through generations of wild horses. Most surprisingly, she glimpsed other humans throughout history who had encountered this same herd, travelers lost and desperate, who had been guided to safety by these mysterious guardians of the wilderness. The herd moved in perfect formation, adjusting their pace and position with an intelligence that seemed almost choreographed. When they reached particularly challenging terrain, several horses would position themselves to create natural bridges or supports, helping others navigate steep inclines or cross shallow streams. Emily marveled at their coordination and the deep bond they shared with each other. As midnight approached, they entered a series of hidden valleys that Emily had never seen before, despite her years of exploring these mountains. These secluded spaces seemed untouched by time, preserved in a pristine state that spoke of ancient secrets and forgotten knowledge. In one such valley, the herd paused briefly near a crystal-clear spring that seemed to glow from within. The mare lowered her head to drink, and Emily, following an intuitive urge, carefully slid from her back to do the same. The water tasted unlike anything she had ever experienced, sweet and pure, with an energy that seemed to revitalize her tired body. As she cupped the water in her hands, she noticed that her skin seemed to shimmer briefly, as if the water's mysterious properties were being absorbed into her very being. While the herd rested, Emily observed their behavior with growing fascination. The horses communicated through subtle gestures and soft vocalizations, displaying a complex social structure that went far beyond what she had ever read about or photographed. Young foals played under the watchful eyes of the entire herd, their movements graceful and purposeful even in play. The mare stayed close to Emily, her presence both protective and instructive. Through their deepening connection, Emily began to understand that this journey was more than just a rescue mission. She was being shown something profound about the relationship between humans and nature, a wisdom that had been largely forgotten in the modern world. As they prepared to continue their journey, Emily noticed that her fear had been replaced by a deep sense of trust and wonder. The darkness that had seemed so threatening earlier now felt like a comfortable blanket, full of life and magic. The mare's confidence flowed through their connection, helping Emily embrace this newfound perspective on the wilderness she thought she knew so well. Before mounting again, Emily reached for her camera, wanting to document this extraordinary experience. To her surprise, when she reviewed the photos she had taken earlier that day, She noticed details she had missed before, subtle signs and markers in the landscape that seemed to point to this hidden world she was now experiencing. Her photographer's eye had unconsciously captured evidence of this ancient mystery, even before she fully understood what she was seeing. The mare gently nudged Emily's shoulder, indicating it was time to continue their journey. As Emily settled onto her back once more, she felt a deeper integration with the horse's movements, as if they were gradually becoming one being. The herd reformed their protective formation, and they set off again through the moonlit forest, moving deeper into a mystery that seemed to grow more profound with each passing hour. As the night deepened, the herd led Emily into a part of the forest that seemed to exist in a realm between reality and dreams. The trees here were ancient giants, their trunks wider than any she had ever photographed, their branches creating a natural cathedral ceiling high above. Moonlight filtered through the canopy in shifting patterns that seemed to tell stories of their own. The mare's pace slowed as they entered what appeared to be a perfectly circular clearing. Emily gasped at the sight before her, a grove of 12 white birch trees arranged in a perfect circle, their bark gleaming like silver in the moonlight. At the center of the circle stood a single ancient oak tree, its massive trunk covered in swirling patterns that matched both the mare's forehead marking and the symbols from the stone pillar. The herd came to a complete stop, arranging themselves in a formation that mirrored the birch circle. The mare stepped forward, carrying Emily into the center of the grove. The moment they crossed the threshold of the birch circle, Emily felt a shift in the air, like stepping into a space where time moved differently. Through their connection, the mare communicated that Emily should dismount. As her feet touched the ground, Emily noticed that the grass beneath her seemed to sparkle with tiny points of light, as if reflecting stars that weren't visible in the sky. The earth itself felt alive under her feet, pulsing with a gentle energy that traveled up through her body. The oak tree seemed to acknowledge their presence, its leaves rustling in a breeze that affected nothing else in the grove. As Emily approached the tree, guided by an inexplicable certainty, she noticed that its trunk was hollow on one side, creating a small alcove. Inside, protected from the elements, was a collection of objects that took her breath away. Carefully arranged on natural shelves formed by the tree's growth were ancient cameras, dating back to the very beginning of photography. Each one had been lovingly preserved, some showing signs of natural materials being used for repairs. Alongside the cameras were photographs, protected somehow from decay, showing this same herd of horses throughout different eras of history. The mare stepped closer, her breath warm on Emily's shoulder, and another vision flowed between them. Emily saw photographers throughout history who had been chosen by the herd, individuals who had proven themselves worthy of documenting these sacred guardians of the wilderness. Each had been brought to this grove, entrusted with the knowledge of the herd's existence, and given the responsibility of protecting their secret while sharing the broader message of nature's magic through their work. As Emily examined the photographs, she recognized locations throughout the mountains, but seen from perspectives she had never imagined. The images revealed hidden pathways, secret valleys, and sacred spaces that had been safeguarded by the herd for generations. Some of the photographs seemed to capture the same mysterious light she had been witnessing tonight, proof that others had experienced this magical realm. The oak tree's leaves rustled again, and Emily felt drawn to touch its ancient bark. The moment her fingers made contact, she was flooded with understanding. The grove was a nexus point, a place where the boundary between the ordinary world and the magical realm of nature was thin. The herd had been protecting this place for centuries, choosing certain humans to help maintain the delicate balance between these worlds. Emily's camera suddenly felt heavy in her bag, and she understood its significance in a new way. Her photography wasn't just about capturing beautiful images. It was about documenting the magic that still existed in the natural world, helping others see beyond the surface to the deeper mysteries that lay beneath. The mare nickered softly, drawing Emily's attention to something else within the oak's alcove, a small, worn leather journal. As she carefully opened it, she found it filled with handwritten accounts from previous photographers who had been brought to this place. Their words spoke of transformative experiences, of a deeper understanding of nature, and of a sacred duty to protect these mysteries while sharing their essence through their art. One passage in particular caught her eye, written in faded ink. "The cameras we carry are not just tools, but bridges between worlds. Through our lenses, we capture not just light and shadow, but the spirit of the wild itself. The herd has chosen us as witnesses to their magic, trusting us to share it in ways that awaken others to the sacred nature of these wild places." Understanding washed over Emily like a warm wave. Her years of photography, her deep connection to these mountains, her intuitive ability to find the perfect shot, it had all been preparing her for this moment. She wasn't just a photographer. She was being invited to become a guardian of this ancient mystery, a keeper of secrets that could help others rediscover their own connection to the natural world. Inside the sacred grove, time seemed to flow differently as Emily absorbed the magnitude of what she was experiencing. The leather journal in her hands contained generations of wisdom from photographers who had come before her, each chosen by the herd to document and protect the magic that still existed in these mountains. As she carefully turned the pages, she found not just words but detailed sketches of the symbols she had seen throughout her journey. The marking on the mare's forehead, the carvings on the stone pillar, and the patterns in the oak tree's bark. Each photographer had added their own observations, creating a comprehensive record of this hidden world that existed alongside the ordinary one. The mare stepped closer, and through their connection, Emily received the clearest vision yet. She saw herself through the horse's eyes, not just as she was now, but as she could be. The image was of a woman who bridged two worlds, using her camera to capture the essence of magic in a way that could awaken others to the wonder that surrounded them. Emily realized that her entire career had been building toward this moment. Her attention to detail, her patience in waiting for the perfect light, her ability to find beauty in overlooked places. These weren't just photography skills, but the early manifestations of a deeper calling. The herd had been watching her, testing her, preparing her for this role. As if responding to this realization, the ancient oak trees' leaves began to dance in that mysterious selective breeze again. Small points of light, like earthbound stars, began to drift down from its branches. As they fell, they created patterns in the air that Emily recognized from her own photographs. Compositions she had instinctively created, now revealed to be part of this sacred geometry. The mare pressed her nose gently against Emily's camera bag, encouraging her to take out her equipment. With trembling hands, Emily retrieved her camera, which now seemed to pulse with an energy of its own. When she looked through the viewfinder, she gasped. The world through her lens had transformed. She could see layers of light and energy she had never noticed before, the actual life force of the forest made visible through her camera's eye. As she photographed the grove, Emily discovered that her camera was capturing things that shouldn't have been possible. The intricate network of energy that connected the trees, the subtle auras around the horses, and the ancient symbols that seemed to float in the air like luminous script. Each shot revealed another layer of the magical realm that existed within the natural world. The other horses in the herd began to approach one by one, each carrying their own energy signature that Emily could now see clearly through her lens. Young foals appeared to sparkle with playful lights, while the older horses emanated a deep, steady glow of wisdom. The mare's energy was the most distinctive, a complex pattern of light that seemed to weave all the others together. Through the journal entries, Emily learned that each chosen photographer had been given a specific focus. Some documented the herd's migration patterns. Others captured the healing properties of sacred places like the luminescent spring, and still others recorded the interactions between the magical and ordinary realms. As she read, she began to understand what her own role might be. The mare shared another vision, this time of the challenges facing these wild places. Development encroaching on ancient pathways, people becoming increasingly disconnected from nature, and the magic slowly fading from places where it had once flourished. But the vision also showed hope, how the right images, captured and shared with reverence, could help reawaken people's inherent connection to the natural world. Emily's hands moved to the blank pages at the end of the journal, and she understood that this was where her own chapter would begin. She had been chosen not just to document the herd, but to help others see the extraordinary in the ordinary, to reveal the magic that still existed in the wild places of the world. The grove itself seemed to approve of this understanding. The bioluminescent flowers brightened, the ancient oak's leaves shimmered with renewed energy, and the circle of birch trees appeared to pulse with a soft, welcoming light. Emily felt a profound sense of belonging, as if she had finally found her true purpose. Standing in this sacred space, surrounded by the herd and cradled in ancient magic, Emily made a silent pledge. She would use her gift not just to take beautiful pictures, but to capture the essence of these mysteries in a way that could spark wonder in others. Her photography would become a bridge, helping people reconnect with the magic that still existed in the natural world. The night air in the grove grew warmer, filled with an energy that seemed to wrap around Emily like a protective blanket. The mare led her to a specific spot beneath the ancient oak, where the roots had grown into a natural seat. As Emily settled there, the herd arranged themselves in a semicircle before her, their presence both regal and comforting. Through their deepening connection, the mare began sharing wisdom that had been passed down through countless generations. Emily learned that the herd wasn't just a group of wild horses. They were the guardians of an ancient pact between humans and nature, one that had been largely forgotten in the modern world. The visions came more clearly now, showing her the true history of these mountains. Long ago, humans and animals had lived in harmony, understanding and respecting the delicate balance of the natural world. The horses had been bridges between worlds, helping humans navigate both the physical and spiritual realms of nature. But as civilization advanced and people became more disconnected from the land, this relationship had gradually faded into myth. Emily's camera suddenly felt warm in her hands, and when she raised it to take another photograph, she saw something extraordinary through the viewfinder. The space between the horses appeared to be filled with threads of light, connecting them to each other and to the forest around them. When she pressed the shutter, she knew instinctively that these ethereal connections would be visible in the final image, a gift to help others see what she was experiencing. The mare stepped forward, touching her nose to Emily's forehead. In that moment, Emily's consciousness expanded dramatically. She could feel the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, sense the dreams of trees, and hear the whispered stories carried on the wind. Her photographer's eye, already skilled at finding beauty in subtle details, now perceived layers of reality she had never imagined existed. Through this enhanced awareness, Emily understood that her role as a guardian went beyond just taking photographs. Each image she captured would need to tell a story, to awaken memories in others of their own forgotten connection to the natural world. The herd was offering her not just protection, but a partnership in preserving and sharing these ancient mysteries. The leather journal now felt alive in her hands, its pages filled with more than just words and pictures. As she touched each page, she could feel the experiences of the photographers who had come before her, their moments of wonder, their challenges, and their triumphs in capturing the essence of this magical realm. One of the younger horses approached, carrying in its mouth what appeared to be an ordinary piece of bark. But when Emily took it, she realized it was covered in naturally occurring patterns that matched the symbols she had been seeing. The mare's thoughts flowed into her mind, explaining that nature itself was full of these sacred signatures. One simply needed to know how to look for them. Emily began to understand why she had been chosen. Her years of patient observation, her respect for the wilderness, and her ability to find extraordinary beauty in ordinary moments had prepared her for this role. But more than that, her deep love for these mountains and her desire to protect them had proven her worthy of the herd's trust. The mare shared visions of other sacred groves scattered throughout the wilderness, each with its own guardians and mysteries. Emily saw how these places were connected by ancient pathways, invisible to most human eyes, but vital to the flow of natural energy through the landscape. Her photography would help document these connections, creating a record of this hidden geography. As the night deepened, Emily learned about the seasonal ceremonies the herd performed to maintain the balance of nature in these mountains. She saw how they used their ancient knowledge to guide other animals, heal damaged landscapes, and preserve the delicate web of life that connected all living things. Through her camera, she would become a witness to these sacred acts, capturing them in ways that would speak to something deep and primordial in the human spirit. The oak tree's branches swayed gently, releasing more of those strange, glowing seeds that danced in the air around them. Emily watched in amazement as they settled on her camera, seeming to sink into the metal and glass. She understood that her equipment had been blessed, enhanced in some mysterious way that would allow her to better capture the magic she was being shown. A subtle shift in the grove's energy signaled that it was time to move on. The mare's demeanor changed, becoming more alert, more purposeful. Through their connection, Emily understood that receiving the knowledge was only the beginning. Now she would need to prove she could use it. The herd began to move, forming a new pattern around Emily and the mare. As they left the sacred grove, Emily noticed that she could still see the threads of light connecting everything around her, even without looking through her camera. The forest had transformed into a living tapestry of energy and meaning, each plant and creature playing its part in an intricate dance of life. They traveled through the moonlit forest until they reached a valley Emily had photographed many times before. But now, seeing it through her awakened senses, she realized she had missed its true significance. The landforms created a natural amphitheater, and the way the moonlight fell across the landscape wasn't random. It formed patterns similar to those she had seen in the grove. The mare stopped at the valley's edge, and Emily received a clear message. This would be her first test as a guardian. Through their connection, she understood that a group of hikers would soon pass through this valley, unknowingly disrupting an ancient animal migration route. Her task was to use her photography to guide them away from the sensitive area while maintaining the secrecy of the herd. Emily dismounted, feeling the earth's energy flowing through her feet. She took out her camera, which now felt like an extension of her enhanced senses. Looking through the viewfinder, she could see exactly where she needed to position herself to capture images that would subtly influence the hiker's path. The mare showed her how certain angles and compositions could speak to the human subconscious, guiding people without them realizing they were being directed. Emily began taking photographs, understanding that when published, these images would create an irresistible desire in viewers to follow a specific trail, one that would protect both the migration route and the sacred spaces. As she worked, Emily noticed something extraordinary. The camera was capturing more than just light and shadow. It was recording the very essence of the landscape's spirit. Through careful composition, she could emphasize certain energy lines that would be visible in the final images as beautiful but subtle light effects, drawing viewers' eyes along safe paths while making restricted areas seem less interesting. The herd moved through the valley in careful formations, their presence charging the landscape with energy that Emily captured in her photographs. Each image was both beautiful and purposeful, containing layers of meaning that would work on both conscious and unconscious levels. Some of the younger horses playfully created scenarios that would make perfect photographs, standing in spots where their silhouettes would draw attention to safe paths, or moving in ways that emphasized the natural flow of the landscape. Emily realized the herd had done this before, helping previous guardian photographers create images that would protect their sacred spaces. As she worked, Emily felt herself settling into her new role with growing confidence. Her artistic instincts, now enhanced by the grove's blessing, guided her in capturing images that were both stunning and subtly powerful. She understood that these photographs would do more than just document beauty. They would help maintain the delicate balance between human access and natural preservation. The mare stayed close, offering guidance through their connection. Emily learned to wait for precise moments when the moonlight, the landscape, and the herd's movements aligned perfectly. These instances created opportunities for photographs that contained what appeared to be natural phenomena, light effects, and compositions that would intrigue viewers while gently influencing their behavior. As the night progressed, Emily began to understand the deeper purpose of her work. Each photograph was like a thread in a larger tapestry, part of an ongoing effort to help humans reconnect with nature in a respectful and sustainable way. The herd wasn't just trying to protect their territory. They were working to heal the relationship between humans and the natural world. The mare shared visions of how Emily's photographs would be used, appearing in magazines, websites, and guidebooks, their subtle magic working to reshape how people interacted with these wild places. Visitors would feel drawn to take certain paths, to rest in specific locations, to move through the landscape in ways that preserved its sacred harmony. Dawn was approaching, painting the eastern sky with the first hints of pale light. Emily's test in the valley had awakened new abilities within her, but the mare's thoughts conveyed that there was still more to learn. The herd began moving again, this time leading her to a series of waterfalls she had never managed to find before, despite her years of exploration. The location was breathtaking, 3 cascading falls that seemed to sing as they descended through crystal-clear pools. In the growing light, Emily could see that the water itself carried traces of the same luminescent energy she had witnessed in the grove. Through her enhanced vision, she noticed how the falling water created patterns that matched the sacred symbols she had been shown. The mare guided Emily to a specific vantage point, and through their connection, shared another aspect of her new role. These falls were more than just a beautiful landmark. They were a natural communication hub, the flowing water carrying messages between different sacred sites throughout the mountains. The sound of the cascading water contained information that only certain creatures could understand. Taking out her camera, Emily discovered that her enhanced equipment could now capture these sound patterns as visible light waves in her photographs. The mare showed her how to adjust her camera settings to record these natural messages, creating images that would appear simply beautiful to most viewers, but would contain deeper layers of meaning for those attuned to the old ways. As the morning light strengthened, Emily began photographing the waterfalls, learning to time her shots with the rhythm of the falling water. Each cascade created its own symphony of light and sound, and through her lens, she could capture the complex interactions between water, light, and energy. The resulting images were unlike anything she had ever created before, photographs that seemed to shimmer with their own inner life. The herd arranged themselves around the pools, their presence adding another layer of energy to the scene. Through their movements and positions, they helped Emily understand how to compose shots that would preserve the sacred geometry of the place while creating visually stunning images. Some of the younger horses played in the shallow pools, creating ripples that formed perfect concentric circles, natural mandalas that Emily captured with her camera. As she worked, Emily began to recognize different types of messages in the water's flow. Some patterns spoke of weather changes, others warned of approaching disturbances, and still others celebrated the turning of the seasons. The mare taught her how to identify these messages and capture them in ways that would subtly communicate with viewers who might never consciously understand what they were seeing. The morning sun rose higher, creating rainbows in the fall's mist. Emily noticed that these weren't ordinary rainbows. They contained additional bands of color invisible to normal sight, but captured perfectly by her blessed camera. These colors carried their own messages, adding another layer of communication to her photographs. Through their deepening connection, the mare revealed that these falls were part of an ancient network of similar sites throughout the mountains. Each location served as a natural archive, the flowing water preserving memories and messages from centuries of interaction between humans and nature. Emily's role would include documenting these sites and helping to maintain their connections through her photography. As the morning progressed, other animals began to visit the falls. Deer coming to drink, birds bathing in the spray, even a family of otters playing in one of the pools. Emily noticed that none of them showed any fear of the horses or her presence. Instead, they seemed to recognize them as guardians of this sacred space, going about their morning routines while adding their own energy to the scene. The mare showed Emily how to capture these natural interactions in ways that would remind viewers of their own connection to the wild world. Each photograph would carry a subtle message of harmony and cooperation, showing how different species could share space respectfully and peacefully. These images would work on a deeper level to awaken memories of humanity's original relationship with nature. Through her lens, Emily began to see how everything was connected, the falls, the animals, the herd, the rising sun, and even herself. Each photograph she took was more than just an image. It was a thread in the greater tapestry of life, a reminder of the delicate balance that existed in these wild places and the importance of preserving them. The morning sun had fully risen, bathing the mountains in golden light, when the mare indicated it was time for Emily to learn another crucial aspect of her role as guardian. The herd led her away from the waterfalls, following a path that seemed to shimmer with subtle energy markers only visible through her newly awakened senses. As they traveled, Emily noticed something remarkable. Her footsteps were now falling naturally into rhythm with the mare's hoofbeats, creating a harmonic resonance that seemed to connect them even more deeply. The rest of the herd moved in perfect synchronization, their movements creating patterns that rippled through the landscape's energy field like waves on a pond. They arrived at what appeared to be an ordinary meadow, but Emily's enhanced vision revealed it to be much more. Beneath the surface beauty of wildflowers and swaying grass, she could see a complex network of ley lines, natural energy pathways that crisscrossed the land like glowing rivers. The mare explained through their connection that these lines were nature's highways, used by animals for migration and essential for maintaining the health of the ecosystem. Taking out her camera, Emily discovered that she could now capture these energy pathways in her photographs. Through careful composition and timing, she could create images that would subconsciously guide viewers to recognize and respect these ancient routes, even if they couldn't consciously see them. The herd demonstrated how they used these pathways in their role as guardians. Emily watched in amazement as they performed a series of movements that seemed to strengthen and repair weak points in the energy network. Through her viewfinder, she captured this dance of renewal, understanding that her photographs would help maintain these vital connections even when the herd wasn't physically present. A young foal approached Emily, carrying a small crystal in its mouth. When she accepted the gift, she felt a surge of energy course through her body. The mare's thoughts explained that this was a focusing crystal, used by guardian photographers to enhance their ability to see and capture the subtle energies of the land. Emily carefully attached it to her camera, amazed at how it seemed to merge seamlessly with the equipment. Through the crystal-enhanced lens, Emily began to see even deeper layers of the landscape's magic. She could now capture the very essence of places, the memories held in ancient trees, the songs sung by streams, the stories written in rock formations. Each photograph became a portal, capable of transmitting not just visual beauty, but the very spirit of the wilderness. The mare guided Emily to specific locations within the meadow, showing her how to position herself to capture the intersection points of multiple ley lines. These nodes of natural energy created powerful vortexes that could be photographed in ways that would help restore viewers' innate connection to the earth. Emily learned how to wait for precise moments when the light, energy, and natural elements aligned perfectly. As she worked, Emily began to understand another aspect of her role. She wasn't just documenting these energy pathways, but actively participating in their maintenance through her photography. Each thoughtfully composed and properly timed image would serve as a kind of anchor, helping to stabilize and strengthen the natural energy network that supported all life in these mountains. The herd moved through her shots with deliberate grace, their presence adding layers of meaning to each photograph. Emily learned how to capture them in ways that emphasized their role as guardians while maintaining the mystery of their true nature. These images would appear to casual viewers as beautiful wildlife photographs while carrying deeper messages for those ready to receive them. Through their connection, the mare showed Emily how her photographs would be used to help guide conservation efforts. The energy pathways she was capturing were critical corridors for wildlife movement, and her images would help influence decisions about land use and preservation. Without explicitly revealing the magical nature of these places, her work would inspire others to protect them. The crystal continued to enhance her vision, showing her how different species used these energy lines in different ways. Birds followed them during migration, sensing their flow high in the air. Small animals used them as safety corridors, instinctively knowing they would find protection along these ancient paths. Even plants grew more vigorously along these lines, creating natural markers that Emily learned to recognize and document. The sun had reached its zenith when Emily noticed a change in the mare's demeanor. Through their connection, she sensed that they were approaching the culmination of her initiation as a guardian. The herd began moving with renewed purpose, leading her toward a location that seemed to pulse with concentrated energy. They climbed to a higher elevation, where the air grew thin and crisp. Emily noticed that her camera's crystal was glowing more intensely, resonating with something powerful nearby. The mare's thoughts conveyed that they were approaching one of the most sacred sites in the mountains, a place where the veil between the ordinary and magical worlds was particularly thin. As they crested a ridge, Emily gasped at the sight before her. A natural amphitheater had been carved into the mountainside by centuries of wind and water, its walls embedded with crystals that caught the sunlight and scattered it in rainbow patterns. At the center stood a circle of standing stones, smaller than the ones she had encountered earlier, but humming with tangible energy. The herd arranged themselves in a perfect spiral formation around the stone circle, creating a living mandala that Emily could see was amplifying the natural energy of the place. The mare led her to the center of the circle, where a flat stone served as a natural altar. On its surface, Emily could see petroglyphs that matched both the marking on the mare's forehead and the pattern she had been photographing throughout her journey. Through their deepening connection, the mare revealed that this place was a nexus point, a location where all the energy lines they had been following converged. It was here that the herd performed their most important ceremonies to maintain the balance of nature in the mountains. And it was here that Emily would receive her final gift, an understanding of her role as a guardian photographer. Taking out her camera, Emily found that the crystal attachment had transformed, spreading like living crystal across the surface of her equipment. Through her viewfinder, she could now see the full complexity of energy swirling around her, a magnificent display of light, color, and pattern that defied ordinary physics. The mare stepped forward, touching her forehead to Emily's camera. In that moment, Emily's consciousness expanded dramatically. She could see how every photograph she had taken during her journey was connected, forming part of a larger pattern. Each image was like a pixel in an enormous picture that told the story of the land's magic and its need for protection. Through this expanded awareness, Emily understood that her role went far beyond documentation. Her photographs would serve as bridges between worlds, helping to gradually reawaken humanity's dormant ability to see and interact with the magical dimension of nature. Each image she captured would carry a spark of the sacred, planting seeds of remembrance in those who viewed them. The herd began to move in a rhythmic pattern, their hoofbeats creating harmonics that made the crystals in the amphitheater walls vibrate with musical tones. Emily photographed this ceremony, understanding that she was capturing not just images, but actual moments of transformation, instances where the physical and spiritual worlds merged completely. As the ceremony reached its peak, the mare shared a final vision with Emily. She saw how her photographs would spread across the world, each one carrying a subtle frequency that would help heal the growing disconnect between humans and nature. Her images would speak to something deep in the human soul, awakening ancient memories of partnership with the natural world. The standing stones began to pulse with light, and Emily felt a surge of energy flow through her body. Her camera, now fully transformed by the crystal's integration, had become more than just a tool. It was a key that could unlock doorways between worlds. Through it, she could reveal the magic that had always existed in nature, helping others see what she now saw. The mare's final message filled Emily with both joy and responsibility. She had been chosen not just because of her photography skills, but because her heart had always been open to the magic that existed in these mountains. Her role as guardian would be to share this magic in ways that would inspire protection and renewal of the natural world, while preserving the sacred mysteries that kept it alive. As the ceremony in the sacred amphitheater concluded, Emily felt a profound shift in her understanding of the world. The morning sun had completed its arc across the sky, and the first hints of afternoon light bathed the mountain landscape in warm, golden hues. The time had come for her to return to her ordinary life, though she knew nothing would ever be ordinary again. The mayor's thoughts flowed into her mind one last time, showing her how to integrate her newfound abilities with her daily life as a photographer. She would return to her work at the local magazine, but now each assignment would carry deeper purpose. Her images would serve both to document the surface beauty of the wilderness and to transmit the subtle energies that connected all living things. The herd began their descent from the mountain, moving with the same graceful precision that had characterized their entire journey. Emily noticed that she could now read the landscape like a book, understanding how each ridge and valley played its part in the greater symphony of nature. Her camera, transformed by the crystal's magic, felt warm and alive in her hands. As they traveled, Emily photographed their journey home, each image now infused with layers of meaning. She captured the herd moving through shafts of sunlight, their forms creating patterns that spoke of ancient wisdom and timeless grace. These would be the first images in her new role as guardian, photographs that would help others begin their own journey of awakening to nature's magic. The mare led them along a path that seemed to wind through both physical and spiritual dimensions. Sometimes they appeared to be traveling through the ordinary forest, and other times the landscape would shimmer with visible energy patterns, revealing the magical realm that existed alongside the everyday world. Emily understood that her photographs would help others glimpse these overlapping realities. When they finally reached the outskirts of Willow Creek, the forest began to take on its more familiar appearance, though Emily could still see the subtle energies flowing through everything around her. The herd paused at the edge of the tree line, where civilization met wilderness. The mare turned to face Emily one last time, conveying her final thoughts. Through their connection, Emily saw how her future would unfold. She would continue her work as a photographer, but with a deeper purpose. Her images would appear in magazines, galleries, and publications around the world, each one carrying a seed of the magic she had experienced. Some viewers would simply see beautiful nature photographs, while others would feel something stir within them, an ancient memory of humanity's connection to the wild. The mare showed her how to recognize others who might be ready to receive the deeper messages in her work. These individuals would be drawn to her photographs in particular ways, their souls responding to the hidden frequencies captured by her enhanced camera. Some might even become future guardians themselves, though in different ways, each contributing to the preservation of nature's magic. Emily dismounted for the last time, feeling the earth solid beneath her feet. The mare pressed her nose gently against Emily's forehead, transferring one final gift: the ability to always find her way back to the magical realm when needed. The herd would always be there, watching and protecting, ready to guide her when the time was right. As the herd prepared to return to the wilderness, Emily raised her camera one last time. Through her viewfinder, she captured the mare's image, the white marking on her forehead now clearly showing its connection to all the ancient symbols she had encountered. The photograph would serve as both a reminder and a beacon, helping her maintain her connection to the magical world she had discovered. The mare turned and rejoined her herd, their forms beginning to fade into the forest shadows. But before they disappeared completely, Emily saw them as they truly were: magnificent beings of light and energy, guardians of an ancient pact between humans and nature. Her camera had captured this moment of transformation, creating an image that would serve as a bridge between worlds. Standing at the edge of the forest, Emily felt the weight of her new responsibility settle comfortably on her shoulders. She was now part of something greater than herself, a lineage of guardians who helped maintain the delicate balance between the magical and ordinary worlds. Through her photography, she would help others rediscover their own connection to the wild, one image at a time. Dear viewers, we hope Emily's magical journey has touched your hearts and awakened something within you. To continue exploring the mysteries of nature through our storytelling, we prepared a special playlist with equally enchanting tales. Find it by clicking the link to your left. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. Every day, we bring you unique stories that explore the hidden magic of the world. Share your own experiences with nature's mysteries in the comments below. Perhaps you too have